Hello friends and greetings for the day. Welcome back to another tutorial on ISTQB Test Automation Engineer certification. We are in chapter 8 talking about continuous improvement, and as a part of this tutorial we are stepping into the next segment, which is 8.1.3, restructure the automated testware to align with system under test updates. And again, we do understand that not only the tasks but also the SUT would be updated from time to time. So how exactly the task gets amended according to that. As a part of our previous tutorial, we already understood that the task is a candidate of improvement, and there are so many other components which might be talking about as a candidate for improvement from time to time. But sometimes the updates happen on the other side of it, that is SUT. And as these updates take place, some of our components are becoming a good candidate of updates as well in parallel, because these updates of SUT would certainly be required to be updated in our scripts and many other things, so that it continuously works and continues to work for the rest of the time till we look forward to another update. So in this particular segment, we'll be talking about those candidates which get affected by the SUT updates. To get started with, the very first segment we have is the identify the changes in the test environment components. Now, test environment components again have many things to talk about. So evaluate what changes and improvements need to be made. Do these require changes to the testware, the customized function library, or the operating system itself? Each of these has an impact on how the task performs. The overall goal is to ensure automated tests continue to run in an efficient manner. However, we talk about the testwares which are coming from the SUT, the customized function library, and the operating system itself. We should not misunderstand that our task solution is a collection of multiple tools, and at the same time, their efficiency is totally dependent on the environment factors on which it is running. And if in case these environments have any kind of updates happening, our tasks would be directly affected by that. But this effect can be in terms of efficiency improvement, or sometimes can be degrading that as well. And that is where it is important for us to consider all these environmental changes which are happening with terms of the negative impact. And if there are any negative impacts, we must have a plan of action that how we would overcome that, and it should not increase our response times or execution time at the same level. So that is where it is important for us to consider that what changes are taking place and how these changes would impact our tasks. Further to add here, of course, changes should be made incrementally with a minimum viable product mindset, so that the impact on the task can be measured through a limited run of test script. Once it is found that no side effect exists, changes can be fully implemented. A full regression run is the last step towards verifying that the change did not adversely affect the automated test script. In fact, this is one of the very golden practices that whenever we want to try something new, probably for any big solutions, we always start with something simple, right? Something simple, that means we take few candidates, and at this time we look forward to see that how this pilot or small piece of work is doing on this particular change. If in case there are some changes or some kind of side effects, then certainly we look forward to amend that first and again try as this small piece of work to see if it is working fine. And in case everything is working fine, then we roll it out through the rest of the things. So indeed, it's a good practice to try it out, because we don't want to fail the entire solution. So it's a good practice to do that. Further to add here, of course, during execution of these regression test script, failures may be found. Identifying the root cause of these failures through test reporting, test logs, and test data analysis will provide a mean to ensure that they do not result from the test automation improvement activity. So however we know on failures, we conduct a root cause analysis in order to identify where the problem is. This time, when we make this update and then a failure happens, we should also consider another candidate, that is the improvement activity which we perform. So we must check that whether this failure was maybe related to the improvement which we just conducted. And that is where it becomes crucial for us to take that into account. Further to add here, the next segment we have to talk about is increased efficiency and effectiveness of task function libraries. And as a task feature, new ways are discovered to perform tasks more efficiently. these new techniques need to be incorporated, which can be optimized code in function or using newer operating system libraries into the core function libraries that are used by the current project and future project. So of course, as the task matures, there are certainly new ways we discover to do it better. Because from time to time, it is not that what your old practices was will remain the same. Maybe at this point of time, I can show that this is how I can write automation script the best. But this may change over a period of time. And as over a period of time happens, we certainly look forward to see what betterment can be done to the existing. So it's very important for us to talk about continuously effective checks and efficiency increment in our solutions and libraries over a period of time. The next important thing we are talking about is, of course, target multiple functions that act on the same control type for consolidations. For example, a large part of what occurs during an automated test run is the interrogation of controls in the GUI. The interrogation serves to provide information about a control. For example, visible, not visible, enabled, not enabled, size and dimensions and data. With this information, an automated test can select an item from the drop-down list, enter data into a field, and read a value from the field. There are several functions that can act upon controls to elicit this information. Some functions are extremely specialized, with others are more general in nature. For example, they may be specific functions that works only on the drop-down list. I think we can very much correlate this to our past experience of Selenium as well, that there was a challenge with drop-down fields and the radio buttons which we had. For the text box, we used to send keys. For the blood buttons, we used to use click. But when it comes to drop-down, we were not exactly sure, because that was not a functionality at all, that I can use a click operation to first drop down the list, and there was no select function to select a value. And same way, send keys was not a feature to be used. At the same time, we introduced that now send keys would pretty much work with the update to perform this activity. And yes, I can talk about these things as one of the improvement action. Similarly, if I talk about things which might be deprecated over time, you might have written a script and over a period of time, a particular function might have deprecated, and that's where there's a new one which is offered to you, or maybe an existing thing which is now can be used. So basically, we are trying to consolidate those things which are a common method to perform multiple activities. Like send keys can now be used for text boxes or drop-down list as well. And similarly, click can be used for several other functions together. So by consolidating this, it minimizes our effort in maintenance, because if tomorrow send keys gets updated to something else as a function, for example, .set, then I would just have to talk about these to be updated, right? Because everywhere else it will work the same. So that's how we can look forward to see how exactly this can help us with consolidation. Also to add here, of course, alternatively, there may be functions that work with several functions by specifying a function as one of its parameter. Therefore, a test automation engineer may use several functions that can be consolidated into fewer functions, achieve the same result, and minimize maintenance. And I think that's pretty straightforward to understand, that the same way, just like the action items and methods of execution, we can talk about functions as well. And we can look forward to find out those functions which can be compiled together or put together to call it a single function to be used in the scripts over a period of time. And that's where we can further look forward to improve the efficiencies. The next important thing we are talking about is, of course, to talk about the refactor the TAA to accommodate changes in the SUT. Now, refactoring of TAA, as we discussed earlier, it's not necessary that architecture is a good candidate of revisiting and revising every single now and then. But when there is a need of over a period of time, you can always look forward to optimize it to increase the efficiency. But it does not mean that the whole architecture would be revised from scratch. You may have some minor changes by removing one component and adding another component. Okay, so that's what is the more important thing to understand. So let's quickly see that. Through the lifecycle of a task, changes will need to be made to accommodate changes in the SUT. As the SUT evolves and matures, the underlying architecture will have to evolve as well to ensure that the capability is there to support the SUT. Care must be taken when extending the features so that they are not implemented in a bolt-on manner, but instead are analyzed and changed in the TAE. This will ensure that as a new SUT functionality requires additional test scripts, compatible components will be in place to accommodate these new automated tests. In simple words, all we are saying is when we design the architectures, we don't try to create it in a way that it is bolt-on manner, that means hard-coded. That means it is embedded into it and cannot have replaceability. As we talk about replaceability, all we are trying to say is that when time comes, I may look forward to replace one of the two and then try to use another one instead of that. So say, for example, if you're talking about data preparation tool, initially when you created the design, you used an X tool to do the data preparation. But over a period of time, the task is efficient and doing the job. But you found that you have a better solution for the data preparation than that of what you're using and can further reduce your effort. So you decided to switch to this new tool Y, okay? And instead of X, now you want to use Y. But if you have built an architecture in a bolt-on manner, then certainly you will not be able to replace this. So point being made is, you should always check for replaceability when defining the architecture so that over a period of time, when the need comes to exchange them for another, then replaceability should be possible. The next important thing we are talking about is naming convention and standardization, which is pretty straightforward. As the changes are introduced, naming convention for new test automation code and functional libraries need to be consistent with previously defined standards. So they should be always aligned and the practices should not change. Whatever scripting practices you are taking into account since the beginning should continue to be the same in the new implementations as well. And finally, the last topic we have here is, of course, evaluation of existing test scripts for SUT revision and elimination. The process of change and improvement also includes an assessment of existing test scripts, their use and continued value. For example, if certain tests are complex and time-consuming to run, decomposing them into smaller tests can be more viable and efficient. Targeting tests that run infrequently or not at all for elimination will pare down the complexity of the task and bring greater clarity to what's need to be maintained. In fact, we discussed this in our previous tutorial also, that always keep consistently checking for those tests which are no longer required or sometimes being executed less frequently. Make a judgment that whether these tests are required to be further executed or not. Again, judgment. It does not mean that if a test is being executed less frequently, should be removed from the task in terms of the script. But if in case so, then certainly removing them from the test, the script solution would be a great help in improving the overall efficiency. Also, when you find a complex test, which is very, very difficult to understand that what exactly went wrong on failures, or maybe even execution, it becomes a collection of multiple things. Simplifying them could make your job easier because on failure, analyzing a complex test would be very difficult, but having it simplified into multiple smaller tests would make our job easier to conclude that what could be done, right? So consistently keeping an eye on what is up to date, what is not required, eliminating them, removing them from the test suite, or simplifying the complex test is another opportunity to see how we can look forward to improve the overall efficiency of the task. So put together, that's all what we had from this particular tutorial team. Should you have anything else, feel free to comment below. I'm always there to address your queries and answer them well. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring, keep understanding the context. Thanks for watching the video team and happy learning.